to call to order the regular council meeting of September 10th, 2018. Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Council Magno.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Gibbons.
Here.
Hannon.
Present.
Harrison.
Present.
McLean.
Here.
Maury.
Here.
O'Brien.
Present. 8 members present. This time, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn to chair announcements. An executive session of council was conducted on August 27, 2018, contractual issues and personnel matters. At this time, can we turn to the reports of the officials and the library director's report?
Good evening. My name is Christine. I'm the director of Your Public Library, where we provide opportunities to explore, learn, create, and connect. We have quite a few classes, and it was hard to choose what to talk about. But since story time is starting up again for fall session, we have story time almost every day. We have Toddler Tuesdays, obviously on Tuesday at 9:30 and 10:30 a.m. for children 2 and 3 years old. Mother Goose on the Loose on Wednesdays at 9:30, 10:30, and 11:30 for children birth through 3 years of age. Baby Jams held on Thursday at 9:30 and 10:30 a.m. for children birth through 2 years of age. And on Fridays, we have Preschool Power at 9:30 and 10:30 for children ages 4 and 5. We have 3D printing classes for adults on Tuesday, September 18th at 10 a.m. And then again on Wednesday, the 19th at 6 p.m. Wise Walk started actually last week, but you can still join. It's a 10-week walking program geared toward adults 50 and older. This group meets Thursday mornings at 9:30 a.m. at the Children's Playground parking lot in South Park. September is Love Your Library Month. We have a few fundraisers going on this month. First of all, the BP Fantastic Four Charities golf event that was scheduled for today was postponed because of the weather. Got my flood boots on. We still have a few slots open for golfers if you're interested. And if you aren't a golfer, you can join us for a steak dinner at 5 o'clock on October 1st. The library is selling sloth prints. The print was created, well, the original painting, which will be hanging in the library, was created by local artist Maria DeSimone Prasic. We have for sale 16 by 20 inch prints for $50 each. The proceeds benefit the library. And the library is hosting a pop-up book sale on Saturday, September 15th and Sunday, September 16th. So we'll have thousands of nonfiction, fiction, and we have a lot of DVDs this time. So times are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday, Sundays from 1 to 4 p.m. Just wanted to announce that the library is now open on Sundays from 1 till 5. We aren't open on Sundays in the summer, but from the weekend after Labor Day until Memorial Day weekend, we have Sunday hours from 1 to 5. And the library will open at noon on Saturday, September 29th, because of the Community Day Parade starts in front of the building here. So that's all I have.
Any questions? Hearing none, can we turn to the police chief's report and Chief O'Connor?
Good evening, Council. Hi, everybody. Chief here. Glasses on so I can see. Rain is moving out of the area. I hope all is well at your homes, your properties. Hope everything's going well as we recover. We did have some information out yesterday on Facebook and our Swift Reach system. We hope it was useful to everyone. School is back, so we're urging everyone, please drive safely and watch out for the students and particularly the school buses at the stops when they're picking up the students. And lastly, our Crime Watch starts back up. You're going to be there.
Yes, sir.
Monday, October the 1st, 7 p.m. at the Community Center. So you join us and we'll tell you everything that's going on about crime in Bethel Park and who we're putting in jail, which is a lot of people.
I see O'Brien got out.
Any questions?
Any questions from council? Mr. Harrison.
How about emphasizing the rules when a school bus is parked to pick up students or let them off? seems like people going in one direction sometimes don't stop, depending on the way the bus is going. Could you comment on that?
Yes, that is an excellent point. When the school bus is stopped, you must stop also, both directions all around. Make sure the children get on or off safely. And when the bus's lights are on, and you stop. When he turns them off, then you proceed. Very simple, because if you don't do that, I believe it's a $300 ticket plus costs, and you will feel the full wrath of the Bethel Park traffic officers if you go around a stopped school bus. So don't do that. So that was an excellent point. Any other questions?
Hearing none, thank you very much,
Okay.
Chief. Can we turn to the fire chief's report?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Brown, the Deputy Fire Chief, here to give you the report for the month of August. But before I do that, just a couple other items. Our open house is coming up on October 14th of this year. It'll be at our main station on Brightwood Road from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Just to give you a little update, we've mentioned about the storm, the weather's moving out. Over the weekend, actually starting yesterday, we had 31 of our personnel stand by at our 3 different stations. Starting at about 11 a.m., we staffed the stations probably till about 9 p.m., shortly a little bit before there. During that time, we had a total of 22 calls we responded to. Just to give you a quick breakdown, we had 2 traffic control details. We had an electrical condition. That was the one at the mall. If anybody happened to try to get into the mall, they probably weren't able to once the power went out. We had 2 elevator rescues, 3 fire alarms. We had an electrical substation explosion, which I think led to a pretty substantial power outage for an extended period of time here in Bethel. We had 2 wires and trees down. We assisted the police with trying to get the traffic lights working at different intersections with our generators. We did 6 flood assessment calls. We had 1 apartment fire during this and 2 CO calls, which totaled 22. Had a short break overnight, and we started back up again at 4:30 this morning, and we had 6 calls today. So between yesterday and today, we've had a total of 28 calls. Reference that, for the month of August, we had a total of 38. So we were a little busy the last 2 days. Just to break down August real quick, 2 structure fires, 1 vehicle fire, 1 mulch fire, 2 vehicle extrications, 3 gas leaks. We had a chemical leak, 1 CO incident. We had 4 calls where we assisted the police, 4 smoke investigations, 18 fire alarms, and 2 CO alarms, which totals 38. So that takes care of the report for August, the little update on what transpired over the weekend for us. My last item tomorrow, September 11th. Please just keep in your thoughts and prayers the victims of 9/11 and also the first responders that responded to that and have had, lasting effects from that. And other than that, unless anybody has any questions for
Any
me,
questions? We thank you very much for the report and for your service and assistance
You're quite
the
welcome.
last couple of days. And we also have John Kuchma, who's our emergency management coordinator, that sent out plenty of emails over the last 3 days. So we do appreciate all your help and your effort.
And we're fortunate as a fire company. John's also a member of our fire department, so he is a valuable asset not only to Bethel but to us also.
Well, thank you both in the department very much. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn to the mayor's report real quick. Mayor Allen is unable to make it this evening. He asked me to make one announcement. The municipality's cleanup day is scheduled for Saturday, October 20th, 2018. This is an opportunity for willing volunteers to help clean up the parks and roadways of Bethel Park and spruce up our community. If you're interested in volunteering, please contact Janet at 412-831-6800, extension 211, or email jdavin@bethelpark.net. At this time, can we turn to the municipal manager report and Mr. Arbaugh?
Good evening, Sean Arbaugh, Municipal Manager. Just wanted to touch on a few things this evening. First off, paving. We're finally almost done for the year. We have most of the roads completed. We're still tightening up a couple roads that were damaged from the flood. O'Neill area and a couple other areas, and hopefully they're gonna finish this week or early next week, depending on what's gonna happen this weekend. The second thing I wanted to really touch on is some debris letters that went out. We ended up sending out about 850 letters to residents along streams, just asking them to remove debris if they have it in the streams behind.
Sean,
their
may I interrupt you and
Yes.
ask you to put the mic a little bit closer to
Sure.
because I was
Is that-
able
is
to
that
hear the
better?
previous people, but I'm having trouble.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So yeah, like I said, we sent out about 850 debris letters to residents to ask them to remove debris from the waterways behind their homes and also away from the stream banks to help us prevent future flooding issues. Additionally, we did send out a couple pointed letters to folks where we knew there was some debris in the streams, and folks have been working with us cooperatively to remove that material, so we appreciate that. One thing I'll touch on is the recent flooding. Staff responded about 23 calls for service, just some different flooding issues. We made out mostly pretty well during this event. Like I said, only 23 calls. We had almost 7 inches of rain, so we made out pretty well. We are instituting some different things throughout the municipality. When we have flooding events, we have a non-emergency line that folks will be able to call that will activate during these events. So instead of inundating the fire and police departments with calls, that you can report some more minor type flooding issues to a line where we may have staff monitoring that line depending on the severity of the event. So we'll launch that on our Facebook page, on our website, and also at our Savvy Citizens app. Also, we can always take reports on our Citizens Action Line. We'll have a flooding report on that Citizens Action Line, so make sure you check that out. Additionally, just to let everybody know, we are expecting unfortunately, some more wet weather potentially this weekend. Just a couple things homeowners can do to help us out. We will have staff out looking at culverts, checking storm basins, walking streams, looking for any issues. But if you do see some debris on your storm basin, just brush it off or give us a call. We can come out and take care of it. We just don't want it to end up turning into an issue. So if you could do that for us, we really appreciate it. We have over 6,000 basins in the municipality, so it's tough to make sure we give attention to each and every one of them. Additionally, if you do see something in the stream behind your home, please remove it before this weekend. That's really going to help us out. If you do need assistance removing it, we do have a group of volunteers that are going around and assisting. Please just give us a call and let us know. We'll try to get you in touch with those folks. Any questions?
Hearing none, thank you very much. At this time, can we turn to the approval of the minutes? And Mr. Hannan.
The first one is the regular council meeting of August 13th. I move that we approve the regular council meeting minutes of August 13th, 2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We approve the regular council meeting minutes of August 13th, 2018. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Council Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannan.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Hannan, I'd like to turn to approval of the bills and payrolls.
I move that we approve the bills and payrolls for municipality per bill list number 091018 in the amount of $1,410,105.08.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 091018 in the amount of $1,410,105.08. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannan.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Council Magno.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. At this time, I would like to turn to the resident comments section for non-agenda items. I know we have some people signed up to speak. Mr. DeLillo, you have 3 minutes. If you can come up, state your name and address. At the end of the 2 minutes, we'll signify and ask you to conclude your comments.
Thank you. John DeLallo, 1565 Lucille Drive. Members of council, Mr. Arbaugh, and the absent Mayor Allen. A preliminary proposal to place 85 homes on the 40 acres of land called the Gutman property that would be the coal tailings pile from mine number 3, which ceased operation in 1936, has been discussed with some members of the community. The proposal comes from a young couple from Bethel Park. They held an open meeting to gauge the nearby residents' reaction to such an undertaking. The developer and the financial source were at the meeting. Residents expressed our opposition not for personal nor petty reasons, but looking back through the reports from Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Land Recycling and Waste Management, and also DEP's district mining operations, those reports from December of 1998, and the observations and objections that were contained therein. The issues are many, but some of the more important reasons to forbid disturbance of that tailings pile include, but are not limited to, stormwater runoff, sewage system overloads, acidic discharge into the Sawmill Run watershed, traffic impact, mine subsidence, and a multi-jurisdictional impact. And what I mean by that is Bethel Park and Castle Shannon will be impacted. I know that council must entertain due process, but if a proposal is presented to planning, regardless of an affirmative recommendation of planning, council should vote unanimously to prevent the development of that tract for the same reasons the development was refused in 1999 and again in 2016. Mine 3 is at its shallowest point only 240 feet underground and 340 feet at its deepest. The property has remained undisturbed since 1936, and one need only ask why the Gutman property has remained undeveloped for all these years. Respectfully submitted for the record.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, there haven't been any plans submitted to the municipality or to the planning commission. Okay, Mr. Rich Failer.
Rich Poller, 1119 Logan Road. I'm just here tonight to clarify something I said last meeting. It's based on the article in the Almanac last month. I never said that the municipality needed to buy all the homes in the flood-prone areas like Sean Arbaugh told them. That's just stupid, and it wasn't said that way. I said that you need to buy the homes like mine where the problems start at and could save some other homes downstream. I'm only talking about a handful of homes. My home is not even on the creek side of the street in the flood zone. It's not a cost prohibitive, it's common sense, which nobody has these days. You spend more of the taxpayers' money trying not to do what's needed just because Bethel Park is blinded by the idea that they don't buy houses. You know, that's a closed-minded statement. Maybe that's why you can't come up with a good plan to fix the real problems. You know, the attitude and lack of action is holding it all back while people still suffer. Bethel Park and Allegheny County allow these homes to be built and tax them. You fight the owners trying to get reassessments on these properties. The owners are just trying to get some relief from the problems because the homes in these areas are not worth the same as the areas that do not flood. Now you say, where are we going to get the money? Well, you have done with all that. What have you done with all the tax money over the past 60 years? You've ignored these problems, and the homeowners have paid for it. Yeah, the municipality allowed my home to be built where there was once a pond. The municipality allowed the contractor to dig down to the water table with the foundation. Then the municipality allowed Ryan Homes to build almost 100 homes on the hill above my property without any upgrades to the existing infrastructure. This action caused the entire watershed to come down through my property on its way to the creek on the other side of Logan. These are the facts, and yet very little has been done to correct this problem for 66 years. You know, people in charge here are, in my opinion, dodging the responsibility they have. I was told by the past municipal manager that I should just sell my home. I asked him at that time if that's what they told the homeowner when they sold it to me. Of course, he had no response. My neighbor was just told the other day that by one of the municipality engineers to sell their property and cut their losses. Passing the problems on to other unsuspecting families is not the answer. It's wrong, and again, dodging your responsibility. Is this the kind of help and guidance we get from such a great community? I want to thank Mark O'Brien for everything he's done over the years, but he can't do it alone. Every member of council and municipality must get involved if these problems are to get fixed. I'll be available in any way to help to resolve the problems with my property. No more excuses. I've been hearing them for 27 years. Ignoring the residents and these problems are not going to make them go away. It's time for the municipality to step up and get this stuff fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Lock? Pollock, I'm sorry. I need my glasses. Or you need to write bigger, sorry.
I have never been to one of these meetings. I didn't not organize, I didn't type anything up, but basically the same thing this gentleman
Can-
just said.
Could you state your name and address just for the record?
It's Elizabeth Pollock.
Okay.
It's 3554 South Park Road.
Okay?
My husband and I have lived in Bethel for 6 years, and I am going to say that we really like the community. And we are having horrible problems with our house. It was never disclosed to us, and I know that isn't your problem, that it flooded, or we would not have bought it. And, you know, nothing, I just see so many people around me suffering, and nothing is being done. And, you know, my husband and I are doing everything on our part that we can do to prevent this from happening. And I know that this year we've had an abnormal amount of rain, but to see what is going on around me, and, you know, I'm watching water come out of the sewer pipes in the street. There's nothing I can do about that. You know, that's on your end. And, you know, I basically would like to just say ditto to what this gentleman said. We are, you know, we don't know what we're going to do. You know, we don't know if we can sell, who's going to buy a house that continually floods. And I'm not going to not disclose that to the next person, because that's not the right thing to do. You know, someone was dishonest to us, and now we're suffering. And I'm not going to pay that forward, because that's not right. And we pay our taxes just like everyone else, and we would just like to see you do your part to help us out and make our lives more enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Crowley?
Good evening, Ken Crowley, 2020 Millennium Court. I'm here tonight to speak about the ongoing saga involving developer Terry Bove that's been ongoing for almost 3 years with our development, Millennium Woods. We've been trying to work with Terry and the municipality to rectify issues for almost 3 years, and there are still unresolved issues. Some of those issues, basically we're at the point where we have no contact with him, and the municipality has also been trying to get contact with him, and he refuses to return the HOA's phone calls, as well as Mr. Arbaugh's phone calls and the municipal engineer's phone calls. I'm here tonight not sure why the municipality cannot compel a developer to attend a meeting and require that things that still need to be done per the improvement plan be done. I find it hard to believe that in this day and age we could be cited for something in our yards, but we can't get him to attend a meeting or return someone's phone calls. So it's becoming very frustrating for the development that's been ongoing for 3 years. And you guys have been great, the municipality, working with us in the past. For 6 months, like I said, we've had no contact. I know the municipal engineer has been trying to reach out to him since at least June. No response as well. We have ongoing issues with grass cutting. We filed complaints through the Citizens Action Line all summer long from March until recently. Every week, it took until this past couple weeks for Jeff Donatelli to finally file a citation against Terry Bove. No grass was cut all summer since March. The land that he owns, it's ugly. It's not in compliance with code. You wouldn't tolerate it with a homeowner, so I'm not sure why we're tolerating it with a developer. Jeff Donatelli doesn't know why we don't go through the developer. He's never heard why a developer doesn't return the HOA's phone calls. He doesn't. He doesn't return our calls, and members of the municipal management can attest to that as well. Sidewalks still need repair that are cracked. Some of those sidewalks will be taken over by the municipality when they get access to the retention pond. There's a spring issue that's not being addressed. I would hate for that hillside to start sliding, and then we have an issue like we've had in North Urbane where the developer didn't take care of any issues going there. This hillside's been an issue for 3 years, even under the prior management and the prior engineer, and we're still dealing with these issues that haven't been rectified. We have a wall in the front of the community. If you ever drive by, there's one beautiful wall, and there's an ugly monstrosity of trees and weeds. There's a wall that he's obligated to put up that he still has not put up yet. So what we're asking is, can we compel him to have a meeting at least? Can we compel him to at least respond to the municipality's phone calls and address these issues? We'd really like to see some action taken on this 3 years later. And then unrelated to those, I know Spoonwood's going to have a concert on September 26th. The last time Scott Blasey performed at Spoonwood, we could not get in and out of Millennium Woods. We're just asking if the police department could ticket the people that park on both sides of Baptist Road. You cannot pull out of the development development when they're parked on both sides. We understand they could park on the Spoonwood side. We're fine with that. It's when they park in front of our property, no one can pull in and out. And every time we call to get them tagged and towed, we're told it's a county road or a state road and that there's nothing that can be done about that.
What is the date of the event?
I think it's 9/26 I saw on their Facebook feed.
Okay,
So,
why don't we do this? If you could leave your contact
Okay.
information on both issues, we'll
Okay.
check and have somebody follow up with you.
thank you.
Sure. Are there anybody else that would like to speak? Hearing none, can we go to the agenda in general, policy and finance, and Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. President. First item we have on the agenda, under General Policy and Finance, is an appointment for the Second Ward Council seat. I move that we appoint Dr. Timothy Campbell to the vacant Second Ward Council seat, who shall serve as councilman of the Second Ward until the next election in November 2019, and certification of the results by the Allegheny County Elections Division.
Second. There's a motion to second that we appoint Dr. Timothy Campbell to the vacant Second Ward Council seat, who shall serve as councilman of the Second Ward until the election in November of 2019, and certification of the results of the Allegheny County Department election. Any discussion of this item? I'll just briefly say we had 4 candidates for this seat. We had actually 4 very good candidates. Council met last Thursday and interviewed, I believe. We spent some time this evening discussing it. It was a tough decision because we had good people, and I would like to say for the other people, I would encourage you to stay involved. There's boards, commissions, and other things that you may want to be interested in. And also, this seat will be up for election next year. So it's the end of this current term. So if you wanted to run, you could also run for that seat. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, it was really quite enjoyable to interview the 4 individuals. All of them were very unique and had very good talents in different ways. It was a very difficult decision for this council, with great debate, back and forth, to find a candidate that we could all agree on. But I really was impressed with everyone who we interviewed. This was the hardest appointment that I've ever made to fill a council seat, and I've made a few of them. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dixon.
I would like to reiterate what you've just heard. There was a very robust discussion to come to this decision, and Dr. Campbell is certainly a very qualified candidate. He has a very impressive resume, but the other 3 candidates were so impressive that we could not decide. I mean, this was a very, very robust discussion to come to this decision. So I too would like to encourage everybody to stay involved and perhaps apply for some of our boards and commissions and stay involved in local government. You were just fantastic candidates, and it's really a shame we couldn't appoint all 4 of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Mowry.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Council Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no other agenda items. I do have one additional item. I know a lot of folks are here for some other agenda items, so I don't want to prolong it. I just want to remind folks that in the upcoming election on November 6th, we have the 4 questions that will be on the ballot for the changes to the Home Rule Charter. 2 of those are important, but are pretty straightforward. One is to correct a typo that is in the current Home Rule Charter, and it's pretty straightforward. The other is to make it clear that the Home Rule Charter is gender neutral, and any references to the male gender include also the female gender. Then we have 2 other proposed changes that relate to the initiative and referendum provisions of the Home Rule Charter. One is to ensure that if this council were to adopt an ordinance that set a tax rate that was an increase or a decrease from the existing tax rate, that the referendum process, if it were implemented, would apply only to the increase or the decrease. Right now, what the Home Rule Charter provides is that if there is a petition submitted for a referendum, it has the effect of suspending the whole ordinance. And therefore, the effect of that would be not just a suspension of the increase or the decrease, but the whole ordinance, and we could be left without an ability to collect even the prior tax amount, and that could impact negatively the ability of the municipality to function. So one change is to correct that, make it clear that where there's an increase or a decrease and a challenge to it, that's all that gets suspended, and that's what would be on the ballot for the vote by the voters. The other is to change the charter. It currently provides that if a petition is presented, and the way this works is if someone is going to challenge an ordinance, they have to tell the municipality within 30 days that they want to do that. Then they have 60 days to go get signatures. The charter currently says that even after that 60 days, if they submit to the petition, the municipality determines that it's insufficient, like it doesn't have enough signatures, it says you can go back out and try for another 20 days to get signatures. And it's been determined that in practice that isn't necessary to have that extra period of time. It slows down the process even more. So this last change will be to just get rid of what we've called the second bite at the apple. If you want to submit a petition on a referendum and you get the signatures in 60 days, then it goes on the ballot. If you don't have the signatures in the 60 days, then that ends the process. And it's just a clearer process as we move forward. So I just want to remind folks, there's information about these changes that'll be on the website so that folks can review it before the election. But those 4 questions will be on the ballot on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McLean. Any additional items?
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Harrison.
I think that Ms. McLean is subject to that fake news ailment that's going around. At the last meeting, I recommended, and I continue to recommend, that people vote against the changes to the Home Rule Charter. Now, the Home Rule Charter has served us very well for the 30-some-odd years, and there should be no haste to try to change it. Mr. McLean bridged into my, reacting to my comments by saying that I had said that I favored the changes, and now I'm not favoring the changes. And that's not what I did. What I asked the people to do is to vote against these changes. We can put them on the November ballot legally, and what I'm suggesting is that my fellow council members that were present tonight, that we passed the ordinance to put the question on the primary ballot for the dedicated tax for the fire company I reminded them that an affirmative vote for that ordinance was a violation of the Bethel Park Constitution and Home Rule Charter, because the ordinance specified that the question ought to go on the primary ballot, and the Home Rule Charter says that an ordinance is not effective until 30 days after council enacts it. The solicitor sat there and didn't comment on that, and then he's complicit in the violation by taking the ordinance, which is 27 days short of being valid, to the election bureau to put the question on the ballot. So I'm just saying that the whole scheme of things was done illegally, and I think people ought to convey to the council that they expect the council members to live within the law. And then I'll make one other point, that is, one of the questions that ought to be on the ballot is who can sign the petitions. I think council is trying to discourage people from challenging this governing body from taking certain actions, generally speaking, associated with taxes, increase in taxes. And quite a bit of time was spent in the caucus room discussing who is eligible to sign the petitions, and there was no agreement on that. And I think when people address the changes to the Home Rule Charter, it ought to be clarified as to who is eligible to sign a petition. So I'm, like I say, I reiterate my recommendation that you vote no on the questions this time, and then this governing body ought to put together a legal procedure and to consider defining, in fact, I think they must define who is eligible to sign the petitions if people start a petition campaign. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mowry?
Mr. McLean.
Just 2 points. One, the comments I made last month in this meeting were to the effect that Mr. Harrison, in March, when we first discussed these proposed changes, did indicate that he agreed with them. And you can read his words. The words I read last month were verbatim reading of the words that Mr. Harrison spoke at the March meeting. They're there for everybody to see. There's videos you can watch if you want to see it. What I was interested in is making sure the public wasn't being confused, that there are proposals that will be on the ballot in November that are a very limited and legitimate basis for dealing with things that the charter needs to be changed about. They are not about Mr. Harrison's agenda about something that happened 5 years ago. That's not on the ballot. So I wanted to make sure that the public wasn't being confused, and they understood that Mr. Harrison himself agreed with these changes in March. You can read his words. But he is now saying that he's telling you to vote no. He's attempting to confuse you because he has some other agenda. I just want to make sure people aren't confused. You can look at the question yourself. You can make a judgment for yourself as to whether or not you want to vote for it. But please don't be confused by someone telling you that it's fake news or something like that. Verify for yourself the statements that were made. This does not take away the citizens' rights to bring a referendum if there's a tax increase. We aren't getting anywhere near that. That's not what's being done here. What we are doing is simply clarifying that when that happens, and the right to do so is fully preserved, it will only put on the ballot the amount of the increase or the decrease. The tax rate that is currently in effect will stay in place. As far as who can sign the petition, it's stated in the charter right now. We are making no changes about that at all right now. And in fact, as Mr. Harrison likes to point out, 6 times in the history of this municipality, people have brought referendum provisions. So they have figured out who needs to sign them and how to get the signatures. We're not dealing with any of that at all in this. So please, this is what I'm asking you. Don't be distracted by this. Focus on the issues that will be on the ballot. Understand why they are being proposed. Understand why they are for your benefit as citizens, and please don't be distracted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. O'Brien.
For one to suggest that this council would try and take away a right of the people is just, it is not correct, and it is absurd. We do not wish to take the right away of protest. We do not wish to take the right of challenge. That's what we live for. That's what we are in this country, and to suggest that is just simply wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Consomagna.
Mr. Harrison, you do not speak for me or anyone else on council. This council is not discouraging anyone, any of the people, the residents of Bethel Park, from exercising their rights to a petition. I worked with Mr. Jim McLean on the Home Rule Charter Commission, along with other individuals, and we did our best to make sure that the Home Rule Charter was brought up to date, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consomagna. Any other discussion? Hearing none, can we turn to planning and zoning and Mr. Dixon?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first item is ordinance number 91018, amendment to the zoning ordinance, chickens to be raised in residential districts. I move that we approve ordinance number 91018, amending the zoning ordinance establishing regulations allowing chickens to be raised in residential districts.
Second.
There's a motion and second that we approve the ordinance number 9-10-18, amending the zoning ordinance establishing regulations allowing chickens to be raised in residential districts. Before we go in any debate from council or discussion, we have 3 residents signed up to speak. Would like to talk about item A, ordinance allowing chickens, and B, the permit fee. And Tammy, Kelly, the first group, if you come up, we have a 3-minute limit. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Tammy Kelly, 5979 Limerick Lane in Bethel Park. I just actually knew about the meeting tonight. That's why I'm here. I grew up with chickens all my life, so I'm glad it was approved. Now, is there going to be a permit fee?
Yeah, we're going to be voting on the ordinance to approve it next.
Okay.
And then the next item is going to be a permit fee.
Okay, because actually I think that's a great idea to have that. Because then people who, myself that want them, will pay that fee and take care of them and keep everything clean. So, yeah. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Vincent? Okay. George Gertie? Do you have your chicken t-shirt on tonight?
I did not wear it tonight.
Okay. In that case,
Absolutely freezing out
you
there.
want to get 2 minutes.
My wife thinks I'm crazy. I'll do this in a minute. Let me just first start by saying thank you very much.
Can I give your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's George Gertie, 3602 Valley Drive.
Thank you.
Let me start by saying thank you to the council, ladies and gentlemen. It's been very much of a learning process for my wife and I, having gone through planning and zoning and really holding hands with other very active members to this committee. I'm very much in favor of chickens. I have a 14-year-old son who is, well, what we'd call a gamer. That means he's extremely talented in video and electronics, but not so much socially. So tonight on the way over there, he said to me, very nervously, "Who's going to be taking care of those chickens?" And I said to him, "We're going to do it as a family. We're going to take care of those birds. We're going to collect the eggs. We're going to feed our family on our table and take responsibility for what we put in our mouths, not just going blindly to the giant eagle." We've tried to do that with the garden. We've tried to instill a connectedness in the real world, and it's an uphill battle. Today's day and age where everything is immediate gratification, to be able to take a step back and slow things down and be part of what really was the heritage in this community in the United States, to us as a family, it's extremely important. The only other remark I'd like to make is chickens are allowed in surrounding municipalities. In my business, I'm out and about, and occasionally we'll see a coop here and there, very innocuous, but I've yet to turn on the news and hear horror stories about chickens in municipalities. The only story was that rooster that was running through the city of Pittsburgh that they couldn't catch, and we're not looking to have roosters. So by that I mean to say, the people who are interested in chickens, who are here tonight, are very responsible citizens. We're going to have lovely coops. My wife's already been shopping for them ahead of schedule, and we really embrace the idea of being able to take care of just a small area of our lives that we weren't able to before. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jen Whitcop?
Hi, my name is Jen Whitcop. I'm at 6177 Boxer Drive. I'm going to echo a lot of the same comments that were made before. I'm very, very pleased that we've been able to bring this up, discuss it, and we're at this point where you're actually going to be voting on the ordinance. It's really exciting to me. There's a number of different reasons why I'm excited about it. One, it's because of health reasons. One of my best friends that lives in Bethel Park that couldn't be here has a very rare genetic disorder where her body cannot process toxins, and that forces her into a situation where she literally has to buy everything as local and as organic as possible, because if she gets, let's say, honey from California, it could be the best organic raw honey in the whole world, but the problem is they have completely different toxins than we have locally. So her body has a hard time processing those toxins. So for you to allow us the opportunity as citizens of Bethel Park to to have chickens in our backyard, it's really going to help people that have these health concerns. And I've gone through my own health crisis. I had meningitis a few years ago, and it made me have to really re-examine and take a look at how I'm feeding my body and what I'm choosing to put in my mouth. Another thing is, as a mom, I have 4 children. And when we raise our children nowadays, we go to the store, they don't understand where the fruits and vegetables come from, where the eggs come from, where the meat comes from. They just don't understand because that's not our society anymore, and we're not in a farming community like we would have been in years gone by. But that's one of the reasons, on top of the health concerns, that I started raised bed gardening and getting the children involved. And the more the children are a part of raising food and growing food, the healthier they're going to eat and the better decisions they're going to make down the line. I really do believe in getting back to basics, slowing down, and cooking and baking and doing things in our own kitchens and our own homes from scratch for so many different reasons. But I know there's a limited amount of time, and I'm just thrilled that we're at this point. So thank you all very, very much for getting to this point with this whole chicken ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all we have signed up to speak. Okay, are there any discussions from council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
Many people here tonight are excited about this ordinance.
He's been waiting 6 months to say that.
Wait, it gets better.
It gets better.
This issue has been cooped up for many years. Let us not scramble this issue. We must look on the sunny side, and that is fresh eggs. We must not count our chickens before they're hatched. However, it's hopeful that this ordinance will pass over easy. This ordinance does not put all our eggs in one basket. It has provisions that protect others and mirrors our neighborhood communities' ordinances which have been in place for years. For all involved, I believe this ordinance provides the best of both worlds. To simply say it, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Could I suggest you keep your day job? Okay, is there any other discussion?
Mr. Murray?
Mr. Contamagna.
I will be voting for this ordinance because the passion that the residents have displayed, not only tonight but at our public hearing, but I caution the residents that they're just getting into this for the novelty of putting in a chicken coop, because there is ramifications that could go on in affecting your neighbors. And I think if you are interested in doing that, to contact some of the residents that have spoke today, because I think they'll maintain their chicken coops that, once they're up for a year or two, might become unsightly, and they will attract maybe other nuisance animals. So I just caution you in doing that. I mean, I support it 100%, but let's not leave it up to a novelty and just have a couple chickens running around your yard and you think you're going to lay eggs and that stuff. But talk to the experts that have spoke tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've heard some very good comments here tonight. I've listened to some very intelligent comments and arguments on both sides of this issue. And I understand that there are a number of people who will take very good care of their chickens and be responsible chicken owners. But there are a number of issues that trouble me, and issues that I have heard from the people I've talked to. For example, this ordinance allows for up to 15 chickens if your lot size is adequate. That's a significant number of chickens to be running around your yard. So that's a concern to me. Additionally, the waste that's generated from the chickens is or could be an issue, and disposal of that waste will be an issue. There is a provision in the ordinance that addresses the disposal of this chicken waste, but we're not going to be knocking on their door every week, checking on compliance with what they're doing with this waste. It's very, very likely that a lot of this will just be flushed into our sanitary sewer system. So that's a concern, and we really don't have adequate enforcement of the ordinance to prevent that from happening. It's likely that in certain parts of the community, these chickens could attract predators. My neighborhood adjoins the county park, and we have coyotes and foxes living in the park. I've seen them in my neighborhood. And so raising chickens in certain parts of the community is in my view, will attract predators. So that's a concern, inviting predators into the neighborhoods. And lastly, I think it just doesn't comport with the suburban character of Bethel Park. I think there's a place to raise chickens, but I don't know that it's in residential districts in this neighborhood. Over the last 25 years or so, we've taken great care in developing this community into the affluent community that it is now. And I just don't think raising chickens comports with that. So having said all that, I respectfully disagree with the proponents for raising chickens, and I'm going to vote against it.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any other comments?
Mr. Maurer?
Mr. Harrison?
As a follow-up to Mr. O'Brien's comments, if any council member votes against this, we can say they chickened out. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mr. McLean?
I promise first to make no pun at all in my remarks. What I was going to say is I appreciate Mr. Dixon's comments, and I think we'd be well advised to just take note of them as things to sort of watch for. I'm prepared, in light of the enthusiasm of the people who have come to us and asked for the opportunity to do this, to give them the benefit of the doubt that they will do this responsibly. I am equally sure that if their neighbors encounter problems, we will hear about them. And if that means we need to adjust something in the program, we'll consider that. But I'm prepared to let the program go forward, to let the people do this if this is what they want to do on their property, and we can tweak it as necessary, if necessary. But I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt to the people who want to do this. So I'll be voting in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Maury?
I don't have such an eloquent speech as Mr. O'Brien or Mr. Harrison, but my words of wisdom. I didn't personally get involved in chickens before. I became aware of them. My brother, probably 2 years ago, who does not live in Bethel Park, for the record. Don't let Arbaugh take notes here. He got them from my niece, and it was a process where she's the one that studied them. She picked out, and everybody thinks there's just one kind of chicken out there. Well, you learn pretty quickly there isn't. And she really did it more of a science experiment. And to convince my brother, it's not like buying a cat or a dog. I would guess they probably invested close to $1,000 on this chicken pen, because he did at one point say it was like $52 an egg that he was paying. But what I saw from it was my niece kind of get involved in it at 12 years old, I guess started when 11, and really take some responsibility. And it really, I became intrigued by it. I'm not putting chickens in for the record, but I attended some of the meetings, and there were some people there and some here this evening were very passionate about it. They were very concerned. They wanted to do it right. I think when we went through the Planning Commission, or you went through the Planning Commission, I attended at least 2 of the meetings. I thought it was a great experience. There was a good exchange. It was very pleasant. It was a learning experience for the Planning Commission as it was for us, just to see how it would work. And, we talk about the manure plan, which kind of concerned me, as Mr. Dixon talked about. We're requiring a manure management plan to be submitted. So it's not like a dog or a cat where you go out and buy it and bring it home and there they are. You have to invest, you have to get a permit, you have to build a pen, you have to submit a manure management plan. So there's a lot of work to this, and that's probably why I'm not going to get involved. But I thought it was a great exchange. Then there were people that were opposed to it, there's no doubt. I think we talked before we came out this evening about the item, and one of the things that we made a commitment to is next October, we're going to put this back on our agenda for discussion, because a lot of times we pass ordinances and we don't know the unintended consequences. Is it working as we thought? And certainly if there's issues before that, we're going to look at it. But one of the things we're going to do is to really look at it and see if it's working as we so planned and we hoped it would. Another example is, and I hate to bring this up, but parking the front yards. There was a lot of turmoil, a lot of discussion, I should say, in the community about allowing people to park in front yards. We've had a few places where it's been an issue. They've all been resolved, and I don't want to make more of an issue out of the chickens, like maybe even with the parking in the front yards, but our commitment is to next October, because it takes 30 days for this to go into place, that we're going to revisit this issue to make sure it is working as we anticipated. And I will be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any further discussion from council? Mr. Arbar, please call the roll.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
No.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-1, and Mr. Arbaugh is the one that's going to be chasing the roosters around if there's any loose in Bethel Park. I got 5 votes for that. Okay, Mr. Dixon.
I look like Rocky Balboa. Since the aforementioned amendment or zoning ordinance has passed, we must now address the residential chicken permit fee. I move that we adopt resolution number 91018, establishing fees for raising chickens in residential zoning districts.
Second.
There's a motion and second that we adopt the resolution number 9-10-18, establishing fees for raising chickens in residential zoning districts. Any discussion of this item? Any comments, Mr. O'Brien?
Would you like some?
Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Dixon.
Last item under planning and zoning is an appointment to the Shade Tree Commission. I move that we appoint James Jenkins to the Shade Tree Commission for a term to expire on December 31st, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We appoint James Jenkins to the Shade Tree Commission for a term to expire on December 31st, 2023. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. Dixon.
Mr. President, that's all we have under planning and zoning this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to health, safety, and welfare, and Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a few items. Appointment position of permanent police officer. I move that the permanent employment of Matthew Poling be ratified as per the recommendations of Chief Timothy O'Connor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we permanent employment of Matthew Poling be ratified as recommended by Chief Timothy O'Connor. This is at the, we have 1 year for a newly hired police officer that's under probation, so this will establish him as full-time status based on the chief's recommendation. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, promotion police sergeant. I move that we promote Ian P. McGuire to the position of sergeant for the Bethel Park Police Department with the start date agreeable to Police Chief Timothy O'Connor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we promote Ian P. McGuire to the position of sergeant for the Bethel Park Police Department with the start date agreeable to Police Chief Timothy O'Connor. Any discussion of this item? Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
O'Brien.
Yes.
Consul Magno.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, there are no other items under health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any additional items? Hearing none, can we turn to Public Works and Maintenance and Ms. Gibbons?
Shaycog joint bid for solid waste collection and disposal services, waste management contract 2019-2023. I move that we award the solid waste collection and disposal contract through the Shaycog joint bid for solid waste collection and disposal services for the years 2019 to 2023 to Waste Management of Pennsylvania, Inc. for automated curbside garbage collection, manual, bi-weekly recycling, curbside leaf collection, and a special collection vehicle for yard waste collection for a price calculated at a tonnage rate for garbage and recycling, unit rate for leaf collection, and per trip rate for the special collection vehicle, and to authorize council president to execute the required contract document.
Second.
There's a motion and a second that we that we award solid waste collection and disposal contract through the Shaycog joint bid for solid waste collection and disposal services for the years 2019-2023 to Waste Management of Pennsylvania, Inc. for automated curbside garbage collection, manual bi-weekly recycling, curbside leaf collection, and a special collection vehicle for yard waste collection for price calculated at a tonnage rate for garbage and recycling, unit rate for leaf collection, and per trip rate for special collection vehicle, and authorize council president to execute the required contract document.
Mr. Murray.
Mr. Hannon.
This is the perfect example of what we discussed earlier in the meeting when we're talking about the Home Rule Charter amendments as proposed. What we have in front of us is an $11.6 million contract. That, over a 5-year period, is equivalent to 1 year's worth of our general expenditures in the general fund. We have this contract. We signed it today. We raise taxes 2 years from now. And as our current Home Rule Charter is, that puts, if our amendments aren't in place, this puts that situation in jeopardy. We have an obligation to a contractor to spend probably or close to over $1 million a year. But we can't collect taxes the way that the situation is currently constituted because we have this petition out there. How do we run the municipality? That's the reason we're proposing to change it so we can run the place, at least collect something, so we can maintain services for the public. So this is a large part of our budget is this contract, and has been over the past few years. And there's a lot of communities around us that charge separate fees for garbage collection. Be thankful it's in your tax rates because it's a savings to you that's extreme, because it's a lot of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. We voted on a lot of things this evening. It's actually, with everything else going on, been pretty busy, more so for our staff. But at this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Arbaugh to kind of give a brief overview of what the contract means to the community, some of the changes you're going to see. I'm sure you've read about it in the paper. Other communities are kind of moving in this direction. So, Mr. Arbaugh.
Sure. So there's some major changes with this contract.
I want to make a comment before we.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's some major changes with this contract compared to how we currently do business. First off, our provider would change from Republic to Waste Management. One of the biggest things is we go from manual garbage collection to automated garbage collection. So what that means is you will receive a container to put trash into, so there won't be bags laying on curbside any longer. Everything will go inside the container and be going out to the curb. For the company, it saves them some manual labor expense because now they have a machine with one person controlling that to pick up the can instead of two people getting out every stop to maneuver that. So that is one of the biggest changes is the automation. Secondly, with recycling, we are still going to continue the manual recycling. And one of the big reasons is due to a contamination issue that's been identified by Shaycog. It's throughout the country. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard about it. Essentially, recycling is drastically changing starting in January for Bethel Park. We will only be recycling about 5 items. Those specific items will be types 1 and 2 plastics, PET, HDPE. newspaper, mixed paper, corrugated cardboard, and dry aluminum cans and tin cans. So that will essentially be the only things we'll be recycling. Glass will no longer be recycled. That will be a waste product. Also, plastics 3 through 7 will also be trash and no longer recycled. One of the big issues has been with the recycling market in China, whereas the United States has sent a large number of contaminated materials to China and essentially has changed drastically how China accepts recycling materials. This could change throughout the contract year based upon mutual agreement, but this does affect at least all the 19 SHACOG communities that are part of this SHACOG contract. The third large change that you'll see is we are discontinuing manual yard waste collection 6 times during the year. So currently on the 3rd Saturday of the month through the spring and summer months, you can put out yard waste and it will be collected. We find it is a waste of money because most people don't take advantage of that. So we essentially have a trash vehicle driving up and down every single street in Bethel Park searching out for yard waste. So in lieu of that, we're going to have a collection vehicle at our Public Works facility so that folks can come there on the specified day during the month to drop off their yard waste. We'll still do leaf collection. In fact, we've increased leaf collection by 1 due to this inconvenience of having to transport materials. So now we'll go to 8 leaf collections per year. So those are the changes we're going to see. And on year 2 of the contract, we actually start getting penalized for contamination recycling. So another reason why we're going to stick with manual recycling. Any questions?
Mr. Harrison.
I apologize for interrupting the introduction of the manager, but the gavel usually goes down so fast we don't get a chance to make final comment. But I'm asking council to direct the solicitor to give us an opinion on any options that are available to help the gentleman that spoke about the problems at Millennium Park.
Yeah, this goes back to the resident that spoke, Mr. Crowley. The manager will be working with the solicitor tomorrow. We'll be having a meeting in the very near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. The garbage, it's a big change. It's a big dollar, big ticket item. Our goal is it's not going to happen overnight. We get it. We are going to supply new cans. Our strategy is to make the change with carriers or suppliers January 1st. As far as the new cans, we'll probably at the end of first quarter. There's a lot of things we have to do. We've asked the manager to put a detailed schedule together, get it back to us on implementation, how we're going to do it. Our goal is to have information available potentially at Community Day at the end of the month. We'll have something in the Chronicles. It won't be an overnight change. It'll be slower, but rest assured we'll communicate the best we can to let everybody know as we implement these changes. If we were to stay where we are, our rates would probably go up 20 to 25%. One of the things that Sean mentioned, that going to the automated for the cans, we really didn't have a choice because people don't want to do it. And if you do it, it's going to be extremely expensive. And we still have the same that we'll have an option to have multiple cans. So we have not unlimited pickup, but you won't be restricted to just one can. If you want to buy a second can, it would be available. You'll have to purchase it, but if you needed to, you'd have it. But all these things we're going to work out. We'll be talking about it each month for the next 6 months, but we'll be getting information out as much as we can. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
Change is difficult, sometimes necessary. We don't do this lightly. The savings was very attractive, and we had to really, really do this just because of the pure savings that this new plan, this new direction, this new operation brought to you, the residents, because we don't take change very easily to something that you're so used to doing, but the opportunity arose to save a considerable amount of money, so we all decided that this was the next step to go. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other discussion?
Mr. Maurer?
Mr. McLean.
Thank you. The one thing I understand from the meetings we had that was key to my understanding, there will be change, and those have been described to you. there will be changes in what can be recycled. My understanding, though, is that putting recycles aside, whatever you used to be able to through today put out at the curb, you can still do that. We aren't going to change what you can put at the curb and it'll be picked up. You'll now have, everybody will have the same style bin that they'll get. But as I understand it from when we met with the folks at Waste Management, you're not limited to trying to fit whatever you used to put at the curb into that bin, and if something else that you used to put at the curb is going to be put at the curb, it'll still be picked up. So from my perspective, as a resident, that's what was key, is am I still going to be able to take to the curb the same things I used to? And my understanding is no change there, except on the recyclable side. Different set of recyclables, but that was my understanding.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Arbaugh, would you please call the roll?
Consul Magno. Yes. Dixon.
Yes.
Gibbons.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Ms. Gibbons.
There are no additional agenda items. I just have one reminder item.
Ms. Gibbons.
Community Day, September 29th. I know we've mentioned it, but Saturday, September 29th, 10 to 3 at the high school. Parade starts at 9.
And car show is 1 till 7 p.m.,
Sorry, forgot about that.
weather permitting. Are there any additional items?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. O'Brien.
last week, Bethel Park said goodbye to one of its own. Suddenly and without warning, he was gone. Scott Benyon, owner of Benyon's Auto. He was a mountain of a man. Principles built on what has made family business great in this country. In life, many of us had those times of cars and young adults, times all our cars are running and times that there were none of them running. And everyone had some place to be. And he did his very best to keep all of us on the road with honesty, understanding, and laughter. The way he treated our young and older adults was outstanding. He always said the time, no matter what he was asked of him. For me, I was honored to call him my friend. Let us never forget this man. Let us learn from his actions and treatment of others that everyone is truly important, no matter what the day might bring. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan.
Mr.
Mr.
Murray?
Dixon. Mr. Consamagna, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I, too, was a friend of Scott Bainon. He's a graduate of Bethel Park High School in 1978. If you ever had the pleasure of meeting Scott, you know you met a special person. Yeah, he loved the Steelers. He loved his sons, Ryan and Corey. He loved his family. But he also loved Bethel Park. And they were always friends. If you had the pleasure of walking through the doors of Bainon's Service Center at the corner of Route 88 and Woodland, you walked in a customer, but you walked out a friend for life. When you entered Bainon's Service Center, you also joined a special club when you met Scott. Scott had no dues, no initiation fee, no rules, no required meetings, but you entered the Scott Bainon Club of Friends. You won't know everyone in the club by name, but you recognize those faces who would wander through the door and get a smile when they saw Scott. You see, you were Scott Bainon's friend because you walked through his door. You didn't pay any dues, but often you may have brought Scott homemade baked goods, Bethel Bakery products, Dunkin' Donuts, but it was not required by the club rules because there were no rules. You gave to Scott because it was what each of us wanted to do for our friend. What a wonderful world Scott created at Bainon's Service Center. A world we all felt like it would never end because we are all friends of Scott Bainon. I had the pleasure of crossing paths with Scott Bainon, which I will always remember for the rest of my life. You see, true friends like Scott Bainon don't come along often in one's life, so you cherish the time when they do. Thank you, Scott, for making our Bethel Park a better place and a club I will never forget, and the friends I have met because of you. And I was just up there again today, and his son Ryan has taken over the business. And as much as I tried to get Scott to convert over to computers and go in that direction, he would never because at the bottom of his invoice was always, "Thank you, Scott." And today, at the bottom of the invoice was, "Thank you, Bain and family." Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consimino. Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say congratulations to the proponents of the chicken ordinance. I truly am happy for you, and I hope I didn't run afoul of anyone. and now I'm really pooped after that discussion. So maybe we can move on to adjournment.
Move adjournment.
Do you have any egg on your face? Motion to adjourn second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
We got great news from all this flooding, all this rain, very sad. But because of that, our Fantastic Four golf outing has been postponed. What's the new date?
October 1st, Monday, October 1st.
Okay, October 1st, Nemacolin Country Club on Route 40 in Bellsville, PA is the place, the location. Registration is at 10 o'clock. Shotgun start at 12 o'clock, and we are looking for golfers. We need corporate sponsors, and since we were delayed a month, now October 1st, it'll be fast approaching, but please give us a call. You could call me, Andy Amrine, 412-760-9614.
Or Christine McIntosh, 412-835-2207. Don't worry if you're not a golfer. You can still join us for dinner at 5 o'clock.
Dinner's at 5, and it'll be a great dinner. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great event. This is a charitable event. It benefits the Bethel Park Community Foundation, the Bethel Park Education Foundation, the Bethel Park Public Library, and the Bethel Park Historical Society. All the proceeds will be split evenly between the 4 groups. Golfers, dinner, sponsors, we could use it all, but there's only a few little spots left. So really, pick up that phone, give us a call, or stop down at the hardware store at the library.
The Bethel Park Fantastic Four Charities Golf Event, Monday, October 1st at the Nemacolin Country Club in Bellsville, PA. If you need to register as a golfer, you can do so by seeing Andy at EV True Value Hardware or myself at Bethel Park Public Library. You can also register online through the library's website at bethelparklibrary.org.
Running out of time, don't delay. Call us today.
Hey, it's Christine from Bethel Park Library. I want to tell you about a great fundraiser we have going on. You can take home a print of this cute sloth painted by local artist Maria Prasic, was inspired by Vivian, the sloth that lives at the National Aviary. The original painting will be housed at the Bethel Park Library forevermore, but you can own a 16 by 20 print for $50. You can purchase it at the Bethel Park Public Library or through the library's website at bethelparklibrary.org.